If you have an Etsy listing that isn't getting the traffic or sales that you expected, eRank's Listing Audit may be able to help you figure out what needs attention. Think of the listing audit like a checklist. It compares different parts of your listing against recommendations based on Etsy's current best practices and points out areas that you may want to review. But before we get into the tool, there's one really important rule that I want to lead with. If a listing is already selling and converting well, don't start changing things just because the listing audit gives you a suggestion. The goal isn't to get a perfect score. Instead, it's to identify potential problems on listings that are already underperforming. A listing can receive suggestions from eRank and still perform perfectly well with shoppers. So today, I'm going to show you how to use the listing audit, what these recommendations actually mean, and how to decide on which ones are worth acting on. From your eRank dashboard, we're going to start by heading over to the left navigation window and open the Listing Optimization menu. Then click Listing Audit. Oh, and before doing anything else, I recommend clicking Sync Listings in the top right corner, which will pull in the most recent information from your Etsy shop. Next, you can either paste in the listing ID or URL into the search bar, or click the Select Listings button on the right side of the screen. Then select one of the listings from your own shop. We'll pick this one. At the top of the Audit tab, you'll see information like sales, revenue, conversion rate, views, favorites, and a price range for the listing that you've selected. Before you start making changes, take a quick look at this information. If this listing has a history of consistently generating sales and converting shoppers, be very cautious about changing its SEO. Again, the listing audit is a checklist of best practice recommendations. It's not a diagnosis that says that your listing is broken. In fact, you may see a grade assigned to your listing over on the right side of the screen. This grade reflects how closely eRank believes the listing follows Etsy's best practices, but it does not represent how successful the listing is. So don't sacrifice sales just to turn an audit grade into an A. For an underperforming listing though, this checklist gives us a great place to start troubleshooting. As we scroll down the page, eRank will flag potential issues found within the listing that you may want to consider updating. A red X indicates something eRank considers a higher priority concern, while a light bulb is a lower priority suggestion. You'll also see small information icons next to some of these recommendations. Hover over those to get more context about what eRank believes could be improved. Now, let's scroll back up and take a look at the title section of the tool. Here, eRank displays your title and checks it against Etsy's current title recommendations. Currently, Etsy recommends using natural language, common words shoppers understand, and placing the most important information about what the product actually is towards the beginning of the title. So if eRank flags your title, don't immediately rewrite the entire thing. Try reading it out loud like a shopper. Does it clearly tell someone what the product is? Are the most important descriptive words near the beginning where they're easy to identify? Or does the title feel like a giant string of keywords written for a search engine instead of a human? A long title isn't automatically bad, but if you've packed so many phrases into it that it's difficult to understand, simplifying it may create a better shopping experience. Next, scroll down to the tags section. This section lets you review the tags that you're currently using within this listing. For each tag displayed, eRank can show search activity, clicks, click-through rate, competition, and keyword difficulty. You can click the small arrows at the top of a column to sort the table and make comparisons. For example, if you're auditing an underperforming listing and notice that several tags receive very little search activity, you may decide that those phrases are worth researching and potentially replacing. But don't choose keywords based on one metric alone. A keyword still needs to accurately describe your product and match the type of shopper who would actually buy it. At the bottom of this section, eRank may also point out repeated words across your tags. Repeating the same words unnecessarily doesn't give Etsy additional information about the product, so this can be another place to look for opportunities to use your tag space more effectively. Again, this doesn't mean that you should automatically replace tags on a product that's already ranking and selling, though. We're looking for opportunities on listings that need help, such as words from your title that may be missing in your tags, possible typos, or words that have been unnecessarily repeated. Next, let's look at the description section. This is another area where the audit can flag potential readability problems. For example, eRank may identify descriptions that contain very long sentences, huge paragraphs, unusual punctuation, excessive capitalization, too many emojis, or keyword stuffing. Your description should sound like it was written for an actual customer. So if you've repeated the same keyword over and over because you're hoping Etsy or Google will rank the listing higher, that can make the description frustrating to read. Instead, use this section as a reminder to make sure the description clearly explains the product, answers the shopper's questions, and is easy to skim. If eRank tells you something is hard to read, look at the actual description and decide whether the recommendation makes sense for your listing. Next, scroll down to the section titled Media. This area gives you another useful checklist for your listing photos. eRank recommends including at least 5 high-quality photos so shoppers can see the product clearly from multiple angles. If you're auditing an underperforming listing and it only has 1 or 2 images, that's something that I would absolutely take a closer look at to see if anything can be added. Remember, SEO can get somebody onto the listing, but your photos still have to convince them to buy. You can also open the alt text section via the tab directly under the word Media to see whether any of your images are missing their alt text. This section is extremely important for accessibility because alt text describes the image for shoppers using screen readers and can also help search engines understand the content of the image. If you're missing alt text, click the Edit on Etsy button and add accurate descriptions to those images. Additionally, you can also see whether the listing is missing a video. Etsy now allows sellers to add 2 videos to a listing, but adding even just 1 can help the shopper better understand the size, scale, and even the movement or details of your product. Next, if your listing has reviews, you can also now see an AI review summary that can help give you a base level of understanding of how customers feel about this item. However, if you don't see any data here, don't panic. It likely just means that you don't have enough reviews yet for eRank to build an accurate summary, so you can always check back later if this section is currently empty. Farther down, you'll see sections for things like materials, attributes, category, and processing time. Your listing materials don't directly factor into Etsy SEO, but they can give shoppers useful information about your product. However, attributes and categories are especially worth checking. Make sure you've selected all relevant attributes available for the listing and that the product is placed in the most accurate category and subcategory. These details help Etsy better understand what you're selling, so filling them out accurately is important for a listing's success in search. This is one of those areas that's easy to overlook when creating a listing, so the audit is a helpful reminder to double check it. Lastly, the Listing Audit also gives you a Google search preview, or basically how your listing will look on Google if it appears there. Only part of your title and description may be visible when your listing appears in Google. So look at this preview and ask yourself whether the most important information appears in that visible snippet. Would someone seeing this result understand what you're selling? Then check your Etsy thumbnail preview. Your thumbnail can appear differently depending on where Etsy displays it and what device the shopper is using. And eRank will show you all possible scales that Etsy will show your thumbnails in, depending on the shopper's device. Obviously, you'll want to make sure the most important part of your product isn't awkwardly cropped out, especially in varying aspect ratios that may not match how you see your own listings. While Etsy's best practices are a great starting point, your actual customers are the final test. So when you're troubleshooting an Etsy listing that isn't performing the way that you expected, open the eRank Listing Audit, work through the checklist, and use those recommendations to identify the areas that deserve a closer look. Then make small improvements based on your product, your shoppers, and the data that you're seeing in your own shop. I hope this quick video was helpful, and as always, be sure to click the subscribe button for even more eRank tutorials from the team. And join Pam, Duthie, and I live every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern for our weekly Q&A right here on YouTube. Thanks for watching.